Welcome to episode 57 of FTCE Seminar Teacher Certification Podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Musto. In today's episode, we will be talking with Miss Rita Miller. Rita moved to Pensacola, Florida just over about a year ago, and check this out. She is the director of the Department of Defense Star-Based Pensacola Youth Education Program at the Naval Air Station Pensacola. I love Rita. I had the pleasure of working with her, and I'm so excited to have her in the studio today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and glad to see you.
So a little bit about her background. She was the deputy director of the DoD Starbase Oklahoma for 5 years. She has her Master of Science in Education and holds an elementary principal certificate. Rita was a public school educator for 15 years where she taught 5th and 6th grade. Not only that, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so dear about her, Rita also served in the United States Air Force and Oklahoma Air National Guard, where she was commissioned as an officer and was assigned various roles like comptroller, maintenance, and support group commander, respectively. I do want to say she retired in December 2015 at the rank of colonel after 31 years of serving our great country. Thank you for your service, Skeeter Reader.
My pleasure.
I had to say her call sign. I've been dying to say her call sign all day. And just a heads up, when I worked for Rita at Starbase Pensacola, my call sign was Zodiac. So you got to earn your call sign. You can hit me up in the comments and ask me, like, how did I earn that call sign?
You should. You should do that.
So, Rita, I'm so glad to have you here. Before we get into some of the nitty-gritty about STEM education or STAR-based, I feel a lot of times to me, there's a calling to the classroom. What were your early life experience like? Like, did you feel a calling to the classroom, and how did that affect your career choices?
I did. I used to get my little brothers. I have 3 younger brothers, and even the one in diapers, I would all sit them down, and we would play school. And they had to be quiet and had to listen to the teacher. And to this day, they can remember that, and they said that I had, that I was probably the reason they all made it through high school. Of the 4 of us, I was the only one that went to college. But I feel like that education's always been a big, I loved school. I mean, I kept going to school and kept going to school. And I think that education's very important. And that's why I still am in education, because I think, you never stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
And this opportunity came to me after I retired. And it was something that I thought it's still wanting me to be in the classroom or wanting me to be near the kids and to do something for them. And here I am.
And I'm so glad, because what a great transition. And I know here in Florida we have Troops to Teachers program. And I believe, because I grew up on base, my father is a United States Marine. And growing up on base, we kind of had like a global DOD school. And our parents served together, and there was a military community. And then my mother is also a U.S. Navy veteran, and now she works with the school and the students, and she brings all of that experience into the classroom, and that added experience for the kids is game changing. I do want to get right into Starbase. I mean, coolest school name ever. But I'll let you talk a little bit about the Starbase program and the positive impact that teachers are making by connecting students with STEM outreach.
Thank you. And I was glad that you were a part of it for our very first few months that we were beginning. We had Zodiac in the classroom, and she had her flight suit on, and it was great. But to talk about Starbase Pensacola, actually there are 84 Starbase sites in the U.S., Guam, and Puerto Rico. So we've been around since 1993. Pensacola has only been here, as you know, since 1 March of 22. but they were here as Starbase Atlantis back in the mid 2013, somewhere around there. The Navy decided that they didn't want the program for whatever reason, and so it went away, and then now it's come back under a different name, of course, but still essentially the same program. So what the kids do, we right now are working primarily with Escambia County fifth graders. They come out to the base, and it does not cost them anything, the school anything, but transportation and the school lunches. They're Title I schools that attend, and they attend 5 days, 5 consecutive weeks. So they come one day for 5 consecutive weeks. And we could do 10 classes a week. And usually that ends up to be around 220, 250 kids each 6 weeks of the period. So we have 5 weeks, and then we go into another 5 weeks. We have 6 of those during the school year. So we get a lot of kids through. This past year we had 1,401.
Wow.
So we started our rotation actually through Escambia County schools again. We didn't get through all of them the first year. And so it took us about a year and a half to get through all the elementary fifth graders. And so it took a while.
I'll tell you what, guys. I loved working in the Starbase program with the fifth graders. It is like the gem of a classroom because you basically do science experiments all day long. And, where you can, there's one experiment where you're classically mixing some baking soda and some vinegar, and you put the balloon on top, and it inflates the balloon. And then, Zodiac over here has my own side experiment. And I'm like, but if you get the chemicals wrong, and it's like burst, and it's like flying around the classroom, and everyone's screaming, and it's great. And then we can talk about energy and the transference of energy and chemical energy. And I even had a lot of students that just like we did as instructors, they earned their call signs. And I know I had one little calculator kid. He was a whiz, and he earned the call sign Data. I think his name was like John, and I was like, John, no, man, you got to like have a call sign, man. And we gave him a little medal. He earned his medal. There was another kid I named Jules because he was just lit. He was so into science. I miss him. I hope he's doing well, and I hope he goes into like energy, as he progresses through his years. Teaching and administration. So like you've done it all. You served in the United States Air Force. You became a teacher, and now you're in leadership. I know it's challenging in all 3 of those careers, but particularly, you give us one experience of one of the most challenging situations you faced, and like, how did you navigate through it, concerning education or the classroom?
Well, I think when I was teaching, a lot of it was I just wanted to make sure the kids were enjoying school, because if they don't enjoy being there, they're not going to learn. And so I made my classes fun, but at the same time they were learning, but they didn't know it. And I was always being questioned by my principal because I might have a couch over in my little library. One time he come in and I had a big cardboard box on the floor, and most of the kids in the Midwest, in Oklahoma, hadn't been out of the town I was in. So I was teaching about Egypt. So they didn't even know where Egypt was. And so I thought the only way to get this historical part of Egypt, talking about the pyramids and everything, was to put it on the floor. So they made their little excerpts of Egypt. We had King Tut. I'd gone and got a half of a mannequin, the top half, and just make that clear. And they decorated him up in gold. I had gold jewelry at the time because it's back in the 80s. And I'd given him my jewelry and everything. So they decorated him up as King Tut. And then they researched King Tut. And the Nile River, we had the river going through the middle of the cardboard. And so we were in the middle of all putting this together. We built pyramids, everything. So each group had something particular to do. And I remember the principal coming in, and I had moved all the chairs and desks all to the wall. I mean, even when we had regular classroom, we just sat in the floor and we just had class. But the kids learned something because they had their parents in that night. We had their parents come, and they had to relay what they had learned from this. And they also had, and I mean, it just brought a lot of just what a kid can learn by hands-on. And that was not even science, but they put it together that, oh, okay, so he was dressed in gold, and he was, buried in the pyramids. I mean, a lot of connections were made in just that little time. Where if you look at a book and you read it, and you've really never been there, and you don't know where Egypt is, it all came together then, and so it was good.
Absolutely. I think that experience, this is like how previous experiences culminate towards where you're at today, and why you're perfect at Starbase, because it's completely immersive. I saw this idea. It was actually in one of our curriculum here. I watched this little video, and it was an instructor. I think he was about 5th grade or 6th grade, and he had the students. They were able to dress up in like sheets, like togas, and read Greek literature out loud, and they got to embody the words because he was making the connections, just like you're saying. They got to walk down the river. So it's totally immersive, and the kids can build their pyramids out of the cardboard. They can visualize. I think there's a lot of learning with your hands, and in acting. I believe there's a lot of learning in acting. I can see that, to me, teachers are one of the original influencers. So way before social media, y'all, teachers were the ones who were showed all the way up for hundreds of students a year and spent 40 hours a week with the students, guiding them, influencing them, giving them positive motivation. I say we're teachers, original influencers, teachers OG, and you always wonder, like, what teacher was a mentor to you or influenced you, or Rita, was there a person in your life who was of great influence? Did you have a mentor that helped you grow into a fabulous teacher, leader, and the colleague that you are today? Tell me about them.
Well, I think my original influencers were my grandmothers, and I had a Cherokee Indian was my was my grandmother, and then my great grandmother was even more Cherokee. So I had a lot of the background that they have, and that to be grateful for what you have and use what you have to the fullest. And so a great influence. I mean, because I grew up watching them. And then when I got into school and through all my educational classes, I would say that the biggest influence was those teachers that I felt were there for me, or for their students, because I think all students can kind of feel if their teacher really wants to be there or not. Yeah, we all had our bad days and everything, but for the most part, those kids know that you're there for them. And whether they're, your A students or your students that really need help, they all know that the reason you're there. And I had probably 2 teachers in elementary, and maybe that's why I chose the elementary part. They cared. I mean, yeah, they taught us a lot, and we learned different way back in the 1960s and 70s. But it was, I would say that it was looking at them. And I had one teacher that she gave a leadership award, and it was his 5th grade. She gave a leadership award every week, and the class would vote on who they wanted, who they thought held that. Surprisingly, out of all the 36 weeks, how many school weeks, I got voted for every week except one. So there had to be somebody else, I guess. But, I mean, she really thought of us, and we learned a lot about, you know, civics and history. And the way she put it, it wasn't just out of a book. It's like, okay, she would make it come alive. So I think a lot of that. And then I had some very influential people in the military that their leadership taught me how to go from kids to leading adults, because it's all, well, except for some people maybe, but for the most part, it's you're leading people. Now you're leading adults, and they know the ins and outs of everything, and you have to lead them in a different way than maybe you led your classroom. But I would say that you find someone influential everywhere you go. That person's got it together, and I like how they lead, or how they do their job, or how they speak, and so you follow those.
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, if you're listening today, take a moment and ask yourself, who's that person in your life that you admire and that you respect, and what Rita was saying, cares about you. We help people develop. I know there's sometimes people think, well, they're telling you what to learn. It's like, no. You mentioned earlier, if the interest isn't there, then the learning doesn't occur. And what we want is to create an environment where I care about you. You're showing all the way up. We're having a relationship here, and then it becomes a personal experience. I believe education is a personal experience. I believe it's a game changer, and
100%.
I just get so excited, and it's so cool to hear that those leadership qualities were within you early on in life, and then were developed by other mentors in your life, so that you could lead Starbase Pensacola today. Because I love Starbase, and I will totally bring my equipment out to Starbase and visit.
I think it would be great.
It'll be so much fun. Well, I always like to talk a little bit about what's next. So, Rita, give our listeners an update on what are you currently working on, and what are any the exciting projects coming up for Starbase?
Well, my excellent team that I have, minus you, we still miss you. But the team that I have are an excellent group of people. There's only 6 of us, so I have 5 others that they come together and make it work for the kids. During the school year, the kids will see them outside of the classroom in the grocery store. And, of course, when kids see you in the grocery store, future teachers, they're going to say, "You come to the grocery store?" It's almost like you don't have a life outside of that classroom. And at times you feel like you don't. But this team has been so cooperative with me. I come up with these ideas, and I say, "Hey, last night I was sitting at the kitchen table and I thought, let's do this." Or one night at a baseball game with the Wahoos, I was sitting there and I go, baseball STEM. We'll do a summer camp. I said, wouldn't it be neat? So last year was our first time to do a baseball STEM camp at the Blue Wahoos, and we did it again. Just finished it week before last, and kind of a little hot, but it wasn't as hot as it was when we did it in July last year. So we're trying to get the perfect month to have it.
Congratulations on baseball STEM. I love the Wahoos.
The kids loved it. Everything we did had a baseball theme. They did robotics, where they had to go through a kind of a maze and try to get through different things. Last year we had the robotics, and they had to code them to where they would go to the bases, and all the teams went against each other. This year we also had, during the time, we have a kickball game with them, and that's always interesting with the kids and the teachers. And then they did a whole bunch. We built a stadium. Each team had to build a stadium, and very creative. I mean, you think maybe the kids aren't that creative, but we talked about design and how STEAM is coming over to Starbase. Now we are becoming a STEAM program. They're adding the A, and usually it's just arts, but it's arts and designs for Department of Defense. So it's science, technology, engineering, art and design, and then math. So STEAM is becoming popular with DoD now. I didn't know if they were going to adopt it or not because I know it's a big thing. But I think they got to thinking, well, you know, a lot of your engineers go to an architect or they go to maybe an architectural engineer, have them draw out what they're thinking. And so I think that's where they thought, well, yeah, it's, you know, it's not an arts and crafts program, but it's, you know, so we'll be building more of those in probably on our next baseball.
That is fascinating.
And then this next week, we're getting ready right now for our military appreciation, where we have the military dependents. We'll have 40 wonderful children of military personnel that will come be with us next week. And then in July, I had another brain idea, and we're going to do a girls' space academy.
Yes.
So we're excited about that. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas I worked with the NASA STEM engagement in Oklahoma. They had at one of the universities there, and it was fabulous. I mean, they even would let you borrow a full astronaut suit to bring back to the classroom so the kids could see it. And it's just a wonderful program that I worked with there. So I brought up a lot of the ideas that we did there, and I brought them into this program. So I'm excited about that.
I'm going to have to find a way to swing by during the girl space program.
Please do.
I'm like, oh gosh, I just happened to be in town. You know, happened to be in the area.
I wish you would.
This is great news for yourself, for the team at Starbase. You have put together and been very blessed and expressed a lot of gratitude for the team that supports your, you know, middle of the night at the kitchen table ideas. Mm-hmm. But I'm for it because, you know, someone's got to have a vision and that we can all sign up on and get behind. That again shows your leadership. It's like, yes, I'm for that. You know, science, baseball. Like, yes. Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, we have 2 after-school Starbase advanced programs that are going to be coming into place. We did one this past year with Warrington Preparatory Academy, the charter school, and then we're going to stay with them another year, but we're also extending to Hobbs Middle School, and so we'll be doing an after-school program there with them. And it's not the 5th grade program, it's more of your middle school, and so you get to do a project base. We launched a weather balloon back in April at WPA. We went out north part of the county and launched a weather balloon, and it has a GoPro with it that goes up with it, and it took a picture of the curvature of the Earth so they could see the horizon and how the curvature of the Earth and everything. And so they were so excited. It went 104,000 feet in the air. And the kids were so excited because they'd never done anything like that before. This was something, and I think that's something else you got to think about with kids is what can I do to intrigue them, you know, because they've got everything at their fingertips. And so you've got to be one step ahead of them, maybe 10 if you can, and, you know, and grab something that they've never done before. They've never seen it before. And so, yeah, we went out with 11 kids, and they launched the balloon. They got to touch one part of the balloon and then let it go. And so they got to be a part of the launch to do that, too.
This is why project-based learning is so important to me, and I even watch the kids go through it, and even for myself, that I want to get in and I want to get my hands on it, and I want to experience what I'm learning. And that's why I just, a lot of times, sometimes it's the book or the digital. We really want to get in there and experience learning. I know I keep saying that. It's because I believe it. At Starbase, being an instructor there's this great. So the students are there, and then the culminating project is Egbert. It's the best project ever.
Their favorite.
They engineer a safety mechanism seatbelt, and then we put it on this little rocket, and then we zip line the rocket across the room into the wall. And Egbert's got the egg, right? The raw egg has got to survive. And we talk all about, the physics of it. There's all this math and science is so amazing. And then, we the rocket crashes, we go retrieve, we like woo, 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 like 911 call, we go retrieve the egg. And if Egbert didn't make it, God bless. But Egbert did, then engineering for you, because you designed a multiple point harness, or there's so much thought went into it. And, there's nothing like getting messy and your science experiment that's so lasting. I loved it. We like to play a lot of music. I'm a really dramatic teacher anyway. And so I do miss Egbert. That's got to be my all-time.
She's been my most dramatic teacher.
Yeah, very.
But a good one.
I was walking the walk. Mm-hmm. Skeeter Reader, I want to express my sincere gratitude for you joining us today. I was so excited. I know we've been talking about this for a little while, going back and forth on email. And is there anything that you'd like to add, or any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap it up?
Well, I would like to say to the future teachers or the teachers that are presently teaching that I appreciate everything that you do or that you're going to do with the future of our kids. They're our future. They're what is going to make I always would tell my kids, you got to get in a good job or something because you got to make some money so I can retire. And, I want you to take care of me when I'm old. And they look at me like, I'm not taking care of you when I'm old. But it's something that you've got to instill upon them, that education is good. Education's a great thing. They may learn in a different way, but they're still smart in their own way. And be like, I had one little girl, or one instructor told me, she said, one little girl come up and said, she was sitting there doing one of the experiments, and she looked up and she says, I forgot I was in school. And wouldn't that be something if they would do that when they were in the classroom? Oh, I forgot I was in school. I was so busy doing this experiment, and it has a lot to do with the hands-on, minds-on. They're engaged in whatever they're doing. They're not, on their phones, or they're not, doing something they're not supposed to be. That is one thing about the program, that our behavior in there, you don't deal with the behavior that you might when they have idle hands. And so that's very rare that we have to do anything with behavior, because they are so engaged in what they're doing that they don't have time for all the silliness that goes on. And that's a good thing for a teacher. that it may take a little bit more work to do a minds-on, hands-on, or project-based curriculum, but it pays off dividends way down the line. And it's something that maybe those future teachers out there, one day they will see the change, or maybe they will even be part of the change, to get the school system to where the school systems can afford and provide the education like that. And you see a lot of schools changing. You see a lot of things being added to schools as they can afford them, because it's not cheap. But looking at the future workforce, we definitely are going to probably have to change the educational way of doing things, because the kids are going to be either way ahead or way behind. And so we want them all to be able to do whatever they enjoy and love what they do.
That is beautiful. You said hands-on, minds-on. That's going to stick with me, because I really feel that that's the key to project-based learning and to the renaissance that's coming in education, that we will begin to do things differently and love it. So I've been thrilled to work with the director, Rita Miller, at the Pensacola Naval Air Station Starbase. I think she's a phenomenal leader, an amazing person. I look forward to having you back on the show sometime. You catch me up on what's going on at Starbase. I will totally drop by with my equipment And I want to thank you again for coming all the way out here because just the geography on Pensacola is quite a drive. So thank you, Rita, for
You're
visiting.
welcome. No problem. My pleasure. And thank you for the invitation.
This is your host, Mercedes Musto. Join me again on FTCE Seminar, a teacher's certification podcast. This podcast was recorded at the Pickens Multimedia Studio at the University of West Florida. This podcast is listener supported. Contributions can be made via the listener support link on Spotify, or hey, you can buy me a coffee on ftceseminar.com.